I live my life.
Yeah,
I'm like an old man who's retired. I think I was telling you earlier. I'm like, if people observe my life, they go, "This guy's just like retired. He doesn't really do much."
I'm a pension.
Yeah, like I just try and avoid everything.
I tend to my garden.
Yeah, a little bit. Unfortunately, I live in a high rise, so I tend to my plants. I water them. Yeah, I've got like 7, and they need a glass of water at least once a week.
Yeah, I've got a bonsai on my balcony. That's it.
Yeah.
I actually tweeted something about that yesterday. It's that Woolies campaign about the grocery, that garden discovery shit. Actually, you don't watch TV, so you wouldn't have even seen it.
I'm good at going along with people. I go, oh,
yeah.
Right.
You shop at Woolies? If you shop at Woolies.
I do shop at Woolies.
Yeah, it's the giveaways, man. Like, they have all the little collectible shit that they do.
Oh,
this month or this
the Lion King stuff is out.
There was that crap that's gone.
Really chokeable size as well. Those toys, they lodge perfectly in a 12-year-old's throat. Yeah, they're fine from the ages of like 0 to 6, but perfect for a 13-year-old to gag on.
Yeah, man. Their latest collectible thing is discover gardening. So they're basically giving these little chia pet, basil, tomato, herb shit in little fucking plants, and they're giving them out, right? And I just saw it, I'm like, okay, it's just another sad reminder that the next generation going forward, they're going to get used to growing plants on a herb box on their balcony as opposed to a veggie patch in the backyard somewhere. You know what I mean? I saw it and I got angry because I'm like, where am I going to put this? Next to my bonsai on the balcony, hanging over the balcony, you know what I mean?
Tough gig.
Oh, dude, it's frustrating, man.
I can see.
I grew up in a house with a big backyard. Like, my old man killed himself to work, but at the same time, we had a big backyard with a veggie patch. You know what I mean? And grass. Run around.
Gold Coast, we had a front lawn and a back lawn.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now they're giving away these little bullshit plants. The kid's going to put on a herb box on the balcony next to the goldfish that sits outside.
You know what? The world's always changing and always will be.
Yeah.
And, it's just all a part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know, man. It says a lot about affordability, man. Like, especially cost of living in Australia.
Yeah. Do you know what? Someone was like, I'll go to New York. And I was like, yeah, I heard it's very expensive. And someone was like, you live in Sydney, man. I was living in Sydney at the time, like, Sydney's more expensive. And I was like, no. And they're like, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize Australia was such a...
You know what, dude? You've lived as a starving artist, as a struggling actor. People like us can survive New York. My cousin's done it in New York as a sports writer.
Man, I can survive now. People go, man, look at your lifestyle. I'm like, I'm poor.
Yeah.
It's just I've learnt how to live nicely. But I don't work 9 to 5, so I don't even work much anymore. Yeah. And that's where I start going, okay, you got to do something. Like, come on, man. I'm like, I worked 25 hours this week.
Go to the Port Chester down in Paran and start funneling money into the pokie machine.
Oh man, I hate pokies. I worked as a gaming attendant.
Did you?
And yeah.
When?
This is on the Gold Coast.
Okay. So hang on. When did you make the break to Sydney?
That was purely, I moved to Melbourne. I was like, that's it, I'm going to become an actor.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was 5.5 years. I couldn't even get an agent. I didn't know how to do it. And, of course, you go to acting schools, and then they're just telling you how to break down scripts like a director and a writer in the theatre paradigm. And then... so it just took so long to even start to kind of get, which is like most actors, you see them. I've been acting for how long? It's like, what have you done? Nothing. I don't even have an agent. And it's like, you've been doing it for a decade. You might want to look at your roadmap. And so, that was, suddenly I'm in Sydney. And I was in Sydney for 4 years. And I came straight back to Melbourne. Because I had all my friends here and my family. And then to go to Sydney and be a loner and be famous, just felt very lone.
Do you reckon that was a big reason as to... was that a big step in you stepping out of that sort of thing?
Maybe. I think that's why I wasn't as funny. I didn't have, that support network there to, and then...
keeps you alive, basically.
Well, I just became a tryhard. I didn't know I didn't know where my tribe was anymore.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you hang out with other celebrities, if you will. Celebrities don't really like to go out in groups, is what I generalize.
Yeah.
Because they love it when the attention's all on them. They don't want to go out and have someone who's more famous than them with it. Like, it's really weird, man. There's so much cattiness that would happen at times, and I was like, oh, this industry sucks. I was at the Logies, and I'm sitting, and Mark Furs is sitting next to me, and then one of the actors on the show, he leans not on this side of him, he leans in between us, close to me, and he goes, well, I hope the best man wins this award.
Okay.
You know, it's stuff like that would just... I'm a very sensitive guy, and being picked on, you know, we're talking about being picked on, I was just back to just bring back all this, my stutter would pop up a little bit, you know, I could feel myself going...
I developed a stutter at one point.
It's terrible.
I'd stuttered once by accident, and then someone made fun of it, and then I developed a stutter. Legit.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in high school, dude. I was a lot older.
It's crazy how that stuff works.
Just gets in your head and just festers.
Yeah. You know, I'm right down, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. He reframes this guy with a 28-year stutter in one session.
No shit.
Yeah, big time. And a lot of people find Anthony Robbins very cheesy and he's motivational, but if you know where he started out, it was more with that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've studied neural-linguistic programming and hypnosis. I'm qualified to hypnosis.
You're qualified in hypnosis?
Yeah, Psych K, which is muscle testing. All things to help people, to be honest.
I had a mate that was studying hypnosis and got his certifications, and he asked me to put together like a showreel for him back in the media days. And I just looked at him and go, showreel, what do you need it for? Oh, you know, my website and all that, and YouTube and shit. I said, oh yeah. I go, you're going to be wearing a cape? He just looked at me, went quiet. I said, yeah, I'm not doing it, dude. I'm going to take the piss out of every single element of it, man. I can't help you.
Look, when I did the course, I was just like, are you serious? I'm like, I know so much of this, and it wasn't like practical. This is what I learned from it. Look, the thing is, I've been studying this stuff my whole life.
Yeah.
So here I am on the Gold Coast. I'm smoking bongs, just to fit in, and I'm
just to fit in.
Just to fit in.
Don't like drugs.
And I'm leaving the nightclub and going back home and listening to Tony Robbins going, "You got to change your life," because I was like, I just don't feel like this is where I belong. Lovely people, don't get me wrong, but I had people on the Gold Coast go, "Hey man, you know, have you ever thought about going to, maybe you'd be better off in a place called Victoria?" And I'm like, where's that? And they're like, it's Melbourne in Victoria. And I'm like, so what's, you know, and they said, yeah, you think you'd be better suited there? And then I came to Melbourne, I'm suddenly like, actually my hair was always longer and just like forward.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I started doing it back. Started working in Veludos, and I'm suddenly like, wore my first tight shirt. Cause you know, surfers, like it's long, baggy, surfy, kind of no shoes.
Good old Veludos, man.
Veludos. It was so classy, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
Guy Pearce used to come in and...
Really? Guy Pearce?
Yeah.
Fuck. I thought about that name in a while.
Oh, man. There were so many actors because they were filming Secret Life of Us, and so all these actors would come in. Yeah. I'm working behind the bar. I'm saying, like, where am I?
So you got your RSA?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. A number of times over the years.
But you know what? That doesn't surprise me, man, because starving artists and struggling actors all like have these sides. People ask me about my history. It's like, yeah, dude, I'm this and I'm that and I've done this and I've worked here. How? Money, man.
We have to. Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah. No, I was a window washer.
And it's all jobs that revolve around acting schedules or production dates. You know what I mean?
100%.
Need to be free on these days.
Yeah, so. You know what? I think I just wanted to be free, I realised.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah.
And that's why even like working on Home and Away was a big deal for me, because I was like, man, come on, like 50, 70 hours a week. that is not me, you know.
That's not freedom, yeah.
Yeah, because I've just... Yeah, my most important thing I've chased my whole life is to be time rich.
Yeah.
That's been my number one focus.
Same.
Like, how can I be more time rich? And... Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to make $1 million so then I can retire. And so, you know,
do what?
Well, that's right. To do what? To get up, to have a morning ritual, to meditate, to do yoga, to surf, to cook a nice meal, to go for a walk, like all that stuff, to read a book.
Yeah.
If you saw my morning ritual, it's ridiculous. Like, it's such a wank. It's such, you know, I'm sitting in the spa and I'm reading a book this morning, and I'm like, now cold shower, and then I'm going to go get the steam, and then I'm going to go back. I sat in the sun, I had a sunbake.
I remember that, man. That's when you started becoming more media. He had more of a presence online. It's when he started doing those polar bear club fucking swims in the bay at like 6 a.m.
Yeah, those are nuts.
You disappeared off like Insta for ages or something. I can't remember what. And then you popped up again, and you literally were in the water at like 6, and you But it was like a vlog. And I just remember thinking, what's he doing?
Yeah, look, I'm all about... There's a few things I'm about. Being time rich. But, I came from the Gold Coast and I had people commit suicide.
Yeah.
And, I think that this is a side effect of drugs.
Sure.
And, there's a lot of pain in the world and people want pleasure. And so for me, it was always this curiosity of like, well, how can I solve this?
Yeah.
And the truth is, hypertrophic breathing and cold, you're getting high for free and there's no come down, and it actually improves your immunity, improves your cognitive function, makes sure it turns your blood from being acidic to alkaline. It's incredible. Everyone's going to be doing it in the next 10 years. Like everyone, bro.
You reckon?
Oh, it's 100%. Because if you look at the stats and what it actually does and how you feel, you're like, this feels awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's.
Let me ask a question. Do you have facial balms and creams?
Oh, bro. Bro.
Yeah, you just took it to the next level. That's what's pushing it.
Look at me. I look 40 Shades of Gay. And that doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
That
takes a lot of work.
It comes from a man who likes to look after himself.
Yeah.
I've actually, I filmed a friend of mine. She did put on this yoga workshop, and as the trade-off, she's giving me all the skincare. So now I have stuff. I have serums. I put on a serum and a moisturizer. And I tell you what, bro, I never realised that moisturiser actually, I was always like, moisturiser's moisturiser. And girls were like, no, it's not. And I tell you what, my skin is so yeah, it's incredible. It's been such a
You're
change.
talking to a dude that would shave with a rusty razor with cold water and run out the door, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clearly not an issue anymore.
I think I've still got that with the razor, like it's the one, and I don't put cream on it, I just, under my neck, I'm like, that's all right.
Razors are expensive, dude.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't know. I've got the same too. I had the same two for years. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Were there conditions placed on you when you were doing like these sort of contracted, either shows and shit like that, specifically regarding, say, your behaviour post, shoot, production, social media, all that sort of stuff?
Look, I think...
Or were they just guidelines?
You get told about it when you've done something wrong.
Is that the only time they sort of come down?
Yeah, well, I don't remember being warned about stuff or getting here's your terms and conditions. Be mindful of where other actors have fucked up for the last 20 years. I wish they had have. I think what happens though is, you don't get employed in Australia necessarily for your acting ability. You get employed for your PC ability, political correctness, and being able to be interviewed, hug babies, shake hands and kiss babies.
Yeah.
Like that's more important. That can you be cheerful in the morning and be like, you're a nice
what you're saying,
human.
dude, falls straight in line with something that someone said to me the other day. They said, we're talking about sports and we're talking about Nick Kyrgios and the whole big backlash against him and la la la. And he said it's because and I brought up the fact that there have been two prominent media Australian personalities that have made very racist remarks about Nick Kyrgios, haven't been reprimanded for it. They're still walking the streets, yeah?
Uh-huh.
And this is on live television. And he said it's basically because Australian media want their sport personalities to be like Pat Rafter. This humble, shucks guys, I don't really deserve it. They
really do.
Yeah,
they really, really do.
I did this
they really
the
do.
little slugger in hospital, and I'm just doing my best, and I want everyone to be proud of me. They don't want anyone going against the grain. They don't want an inch of just that anti-hero.
Of realism.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, we are all fucktards.
Yeah.
There's a rainbow of emotions, and we possess all of them. Jealousy, rage, anger, frustration, happiness, joy, nice stuff. But we're so focused on, now you must pretend to be good. But for me, I call myself a realist. Because I'm like, I hear a lot of rules, and, Paul, you shouldn't do that. I've always been in trouble. You shouldn't do that. I measure actions.
Yeah.
Because those actions, a few words or a bit of this, or you can see through it. And if you offend someone, you can go and say sorry.
Yeah.
But, you don't need to pick on people, I guess is the point. Pick on yourself instead.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's an interesting world.
Who would you, actually, you didn't, we sort of started on this before. I was asking you what makes the quality between Australian films and media over the American, let's say, hypothetically for the American, yeah?
Yeah.
Outside of budget.
Yeah, look, I think why American content is probably above Australia's is because they've done the hours
Yeah.
You know, the grip's done hours. The clapper, the lighting person, the camera guy, the director. The director's actually directed us a lot of films.
So you reckon it just comes down to experience outright?
Big time, because a lot of it becomes automated. You get on a lot of sets in Australia, and unfortunately that director might be directing some big-ass film, but the guy hasn't done anything before. He's directed TV commercials.
Yeah, if that.
You know, and it's like, and so quite often I'd get on sets and I'm like, I'm so much more qualified than a lot of these people I'm working with, especially in the director sense, because I'm like, I mean, I coach actors one-on-one. I'm directing them every day.
Yeah.
I do potentially 8 hours of directing actors every day. And most directors, they haven't even made a short film.
You ever done any directing?
Look, I wanted to be a director.
Okay.
I left school and I applied to get into directing.
Okay.
And yeah, as you do. And I made a short film and I didn't get accepted. It was very artistic and out there and probably just too much for the
a lot of shirtless dudes.
No, I had this thing where I put
just walking around.
I had this guy and he's kind of lost and I put petrol on this road out in Mudgeeraba in the back and I did this big long line of petrol and then did like an arrow on it and then got this guy to light it and I had the can and then I just walked along this it's very artistic. It looked awesome. And you could hear the flames because I had it in slow-mo going, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, with this beautiful soundtrack.
Yeah.
I got some from Moby and I loved it. They didn't. So I'm cooking full time. I'm like, okay, I'm leaving school. What I want to be, I want to be a director. Applied, didn't work out. And then my dad was a builder, so I was like, hey, go to TAFE, do a building degree. Did it, qualified, and went, I'm sitting at lunch, and there's a guy, it's 11 o'clock, and they're talking about the footy. I didn't watch the footy, I was a surfer, and, I played guitar. And these guys are sitting, they didn't look happy. They're eating pies and donuts, and the guy cracks a beer.
Yeah.
And I just went, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so that's when I went and did radio and then, acting. But deep down, all I ever wanted to do
So why don't you do something now?
I want to do stand-up and be an educator. Being an educator is actually where my heart is at.
Okay.
I'm the guy who would be talking to that person in a nightclub and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, they're going through a rough patch. I'm just giving them some tips.
Yeah, I remember you gave me a lot of time when I saw you at Temperance. You were smashed. And you gave me a lot of time.
Oh, bro. I was walking home and I was like, I've got to go. I don't know whether I'd been somewhere. There was some...
You were already like, because that was the last stop for me that night.
Oh, that was the last stop. I was actually going home, and I'm walking right past it, and I was like, this is probably it. But I think I'd had some day of, I'd been drinking for 12 hours or something. So,
it was going off. It was going off.
It was bumping in there.
And I just remember I hadn't seen you in a couple of years, and I just caught you, and you were just giving me like a spiel of your life. Then I gave you real mind.
I was very passionate that night.
Taking it all in.
I was very passionate. Look, I'd been through a lot as well around about that time because I'd lost my dad and I was looking after my mum.
Yeah.
And, we're living in that little glass box I was telling you about. She doesn't live there anymore. But, that gets pretty in your face. And she really wasn't well.
Yeah.
And, she was heckling me 24/7. We heckle people, we pick on people, we judge people because it fulfills our human needs of certainty and significance, essentially. So it's like a poor man's way of feeling better. The problem is, it doesn't have longevity. But I was very, very passionate about a lot of things. And, to be honest, I feel as though I'm probably the best I've been in a long time.
That's a good thing when you can actually say that.
Yeah, I mean, things got low, man. I finished home and away, went to LA, didn't get the visa, hanging out with Chris and didn't get the visa, and he becomes Thor and he calls me going, hey man, how you doing? I just booked this thing called Thor. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then I'm working in a bar, moved back with my parents, and I'm being heckled and people going, what are you working in this bar for? I got heckled and heckled. Then from there, I had some other stuff going and decided to, things got a bit tough and I started sleeping in my office and I'm sleeping there for 8 months. I got to a point I was just going to walk. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with all this trying to be famous, trying to keep up with that stuff. You got to do social media. I'm like, I just never did social media. It's not my thing. You'll find me sitting in a park on the grass looking up at I'm like Dreamtime, mate. I think those guys have got it worked out. I do a lot of just sitting in nature and Yeah. Like, I don't know why.
Dude, my social media slowly over the last 2-3 years stopped being about me, and now it's just, I mean, if you look at it, like, I've only got Instagram now, and it's literally just snippets from pop culture, movies, TV shows, things that make me laugh.
Yeah.
No audio. Just a looped scene of like 3 seconds.
Right, okay.
And I find myself, like, because I hardly have any time anymore, I'll be flicking through and just laughing at these 3-second scenes because it made me laugh.
Yeah.
And it's just, hey,
isn't that
might pick me up.
See, I started my Instagram and I was like, well, I want my memories here of my life. And then I started going, I don't really want anyone to know anything about my life. I'm a bit mysterious. And so it's just purely about actor success and giving tips to actors. And then the occasional photo, people are like, dude, he put some weird stuff up there. And I'm like, look, I'm all about find your flow, no matter how weird it is. Just do it. And if you're in trouble, and, you know, if you're not okay, or you want to do something stupid, or, you know, get on the needle or the hash pipe or the boozing too much or sexual addiction or procrastination addiction of any sort, there's ways to interrupt that are good for you. And so, you know, I'm teaching that back to actors who tend to be so in their heads, and so confused in themselves as people.
So is that what you reckon? I mean, when you say all your classes, all your teaching classes that you do, how many different sort of things are you running?
So basically, I just do private one-on-one at this stage.
Okay.
So I used to do group classes, and I was like, it's just not right. And I wanted to find a formula that could really help everyone, because I have people from different countries, you know, from India, Philippines, or England, or New Zealand, saying, hey, can I get coaching?
Yeah.
And the truth is that most people, you can't teach acting. And so this way I'm saying I can get people into the industry, and they don't have to go to a school. They can do it themselves. They can run this business by themselves with their iPhone.
Sounds like you're doing more of a life coach sort of thing, man. Like,
it really is. It really is.
Because what you're bringing up is things that anyone could apply to anything, especially if you're a fan of Tony Robbins and you've got your head around, you know, all that sort of stuff, all that centric, positive reinforcement sort of shit. That sounds more like that's what you should be doing. Not necessarily just acting, but life-centric sort of things.
That's the thing. I've had people that I've coached for, you know, a long time. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, we've got to get back to acting. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, you need to go see someone professional. And they're like, I have for years, and I get more from you. But it's also because I've been through so much. I've read so many self-help books. And so, yeah, I'm all about biohacks.
Have you ever thought about getting accredited like that?
Here's the problem. So many of those things I go to, and I probably should. I had a friend saying, you should go do that.
Ponzi scheme, you know, with the pyramid.
Well, the problem for me, though, is like so much of accredited stuff, you're being taught it by someone who has no idea. That doesn't actually do it. They're reading it out of a textbook.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
And a lot of my fights are like, you don't have your Cert 4 in teaching. I'm like, yeah, because what I'm teaching actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And you guys aren't going to approve it because you're like, wait a minute, you've got to keep to this formula. I'm like, that formula, e.g. the acting formula, those techniques were made up in the 50s and 60s. 50s and 60s. Name one other industry where we still keep the same principles happening.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
You know, and it's just like, and everyone's going, I want to be in film and TV. I'm like, do you realize that those techniques were invented for actors, directors, and playwrights in theatre? And they're still being taught in all these big-ass schools, charging these actors all this money.
That's insane.
And I got really angry at that. And I went to LA and I failed. I couldn't learn lines fast. And I was like, these acting schools didn't teach me what I need to know. I got on Home and Away. People were laughing at me, going, what are you doing all that work for? And I'm like, because I want to be the best, and I'm breaking down the scene to beat someone.
Yeah.
And they're all going, no, man. Working actors don't do that shit.
Yeah.
They just don't do it. And every single actor's doing it. You get a script in an acting class, everyone's hitting the same full stop and breaking down. If we're guys doing the same scene,
yeah,
we're going to break down, oh, John in this scene is angry and frustrated on this line. So everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
You will never work. Or maybe you will. Neighbours, Home and Away. Actually, if you want to work on Home and Away Neighbours, just become a, you know...
Yeah.
Yeah,
anything.
become a reality star.
Yeah, and get on Australia's Got Talent first, and then get on there.
Yeah, or one of those, and they're just those sorts of shows. That's all. Great ride, but like I said, I'd rather tell true stories or.
It's not acting.
Yeah, it's something else.
It's entirely something else. It's like celebrity became a career.
Yeah,
it became like a fucking career opportunity. Like
it really did, and I think that's what got to me at the time, because I was like, wait a minute,
it's like influencer, an influencer on Instagram. How is that a career option now?
I know.
What are you? I'm an Instagram influencer.
It's crazy, isn't it?
What are you, nuts? Look, what do you mean?
I went on one date with a girl who was an influencer.
Oh my God, man.
And it's funny, I messaged her sort of the next day or whatever, and she couldn't get back to me because she was just so busy with her influencing. And then I'm just looking at it and I'm going, but it's just you pulling a post. It's a photo.
It's a photo.
Of you. I get it, though. To put up a post, it's probably won't do it. It can take a long time, and you've got to do the photo shoot and everything else. But if you can't message someone back, because you're so busy with your influencing, then it's ego based. I don't think it's creating nicer people. Maybe
no. That's scraping the bottom of the fucking barrel, man. For celebrities or like even just career opportunity. Like, dude, it makes no sense because all these influencers literally came from nothing. But I don't mean nothing as in they were poor or had a hard time. There's no substance. That's my biggest issue.
Yeah.
It comes from a baseless... like a baseless foundation.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they've got... a million followers and they're advertising the latest, Shein and Fashion Nova clothes. I'm like, who are you, man?
Yeah. But look, dude, I mean, I think that stuff's even weird with... I see people that I've worked with, and you see them like QV cream. It's like, you don't use it. Like they said, well, you'll pay you, 30 grand or 100K, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay. And I see that stuff and I just cringe, and I go, and that's where I think I missed out, because I didn't realise that you are a prostitute.
Yeah.
And the production needs you to dress up and behave in a certain way.
Yeah.
And here I am like, I'm Mr. I mean, I don't work for anyone.
Yeah.
That happened for a reason.
Yeah, you do what you want to do.
Well, I'd go into companies and I just was like, yeah, but why would you do that? And you can't do this. And I'd be like, what do you mean I can't do that? That makes no sense. And I would just argue because I was, this kid that had to fight to be heard, fight for justice, fight to be fair.
Yeah.
And all I ever fight for is fair and win-win. And so a lot of I got in trouble at home and away quite a few times. And you know why? Because I'd say to the producer, she'd pull me in. Julie, I'm so sorry, okay? I was a young actor. You didn't give me terms and conditions, okay? And I was trying to be funny. But I'd get pulled in and be like, Paul, now, I got jobbed in by other actors and I'd be like, oh, please, is this school, please? Paul, now, you did this. And my response so often, I was like, yeah, but attitude reflects leadership. And she'd just sit there and go, I got in trouble by Ray Ma one time for eating a Kit Kat. I did 17 scenes that day. 17 scenes.
What do you mean you got in trouble for eating?
So in rehearsal, I'm sitting there and I've got a Kit Kat. I'm starving. I didn't eat lunch. I'm like, oh my God, it's just such a day. I've got a Kit Kat. We're reading and I'm just nibbling away. And he grabs it and goes, no eating in rehearsal. I looked at him, I was going to punch him, because everyone's like, oh, Ray, he's the best. Do you like him? I think I'm the one who made up the thing about the rape dungeon. Because I'd be out and they go, what's Ray like? And I said, he's got a rape dungeon. I started making that up. And then I started seeing this stuff and I was like, oh, geez, I hope I didn't do that. Because you know what I'm like, I have a few drinks, I can become very passionate, and people ask me a question and I go, I'll tell you.
Dude, I saw an interview where he won some fucking award for something, and I said, for what? Okay, he's played the same character for the last 50 years, he's done nothing else. And I go, he comes across as the same wank that he is in the show. I go, it's like that personality is just...
Yeah, you see, you've got to be careful because Australians love him. Yeah, and you might have people outside the studio going, stone the crows.
I don't give a shit. That's the difference. I don't care. And that's the best part about it. I pay for this production.
Yeah.
And if 10 people hear it, or no one hears it, or 1,000 people hear it, I don't care because I said it, got it off my fucking chest. I feel better.
I hear. So anyway, that fucked hard takes my fucking Kit Kat. And I was like, I'm from the Gold Coast. I'm like, I'm going to headbutt this guy. We're vicious animals. And anyway, I get called into the office, and it's like, Paul, you're not allowed to eat in rehearsal. And I was like, Julie, the director was peeling an apple like this with a knife. He's the director. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I just shot I've got 17 scenes on today, and I didn't get to have lunch, and the director's peeling an apple. Attitude reflects leadership. Got in trouble by Kate Ritchie one time. Kate, I saw you in that QV ad. Please, you're better than that. Actually, no, I mean, she is the pin-up girl.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I struggled sometimes going, wait a minute, you've got to be able to sell your soul and go, I'm just advertising products.
Yeah.
I can't do it if I don't use it, if I haven't used it for a very long time and I've tested, I've researched it.
Yeah.
I really don't want to do it.
Yeah, no, I 100% do. That's why I can't work in sales.
If
I don't believe in it, I can't sell it.
I did door-to-door sales, and I just kept saying to the Optus, I'm like, yeah, but you're saying this, but what about this? And like, yeah, don't worry about that. I'm like, no, I am worried about this. So you're saying this is the deal, but it doesn't really work. But yeah. And I was like, well, how can I sell this if it's not legit?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, but it is legit, but not legit. So anyway, I got in trouble for stuff like that, and so I would have driven her crazy, but like I was on my phone. One time, I'm organising a house and all this different stuff, and, it's so busy.
Yeah.
And I get in trouble for it. Paul, someone said that you're on your phone. And I'm like, Kate Ritchie, you little dibber-dobber. Meanwhile, and by the way, I'm just doing emails on my phone, sitting there. You're in the studio for a long time. Meanwhile, look over, director's on the phone, walking around going, oh, yep, He's on the phone, and I was like, well, he's talking on the phone. I'm going to get my phone out and just check these emails because I'm trying to buy this property, blah, blah, blah. And I got in trouble, and I'm like, Julie, can I just say, it was actually the same director. He was actually on the phone at the time. Attitude reflects leadership. So there was a lot of stuff like that, and I probably did a head-in.
I have a big problem with that sort of shit as well, man.
Well, it's just the blithering obvious. It's like, come on, guys.
It's blatant hypocrisy. Why are you better than me? Why can you use your phone and I can't? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but even that, it's like, who cares?
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
You are actors that are reading a script in a room. Guess what? You're not saving a life. You're not going to space. You're not creating a new paradigm of thinking. You're just fucking actors. Actors are babies that are looked after that speak. They're babies that can speak.
You're an actor, dude.
There's so many actors that I look like want to bash me. It's really hard. It is hard, I guess. Yes,
you are such a breath of fresh air, man.
Yeah, right.
I'm so glad you've come to do this. Seriously.
With pleasure.
No, like, seriously, man. It's nice to actually hear it. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Dude, acting has its shit. You know what I mean?
Bro, what?
Learn a script.
What happened? Oh, paper cut.
Yeah.
Like, you build a house, man. Like, that's hard work.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually have a mate that built a house, man. As in, I'd met him, I've known the guy 20 years, easy. Yeah, but yeah, probably just rounding nearly 20 years. He's had his ups and downs, gone through his sort of shit. And in the last sort of 5-6 years, he's just turned it 180, started a building business and did all this shit. And he turned around the other day, like about maybe a month or two ago, he sent me a text and he's like, dude, I'm standing in the living room of like my house that I've just built. And I was there helping him clean up before the inspector came, He goes, I'm standing, I'm looking around, I'm like, I actually built a fucking house. For the first time, he actually patted himself on the back and said, I actually built a house.
Incredible achievement.
Okay, that's insane, man. Like, I'm barely paying off mine. You know what I mean? And it's got fucking defects, I'm calling you for help. I go, that's insane. Pat yourself on the back, dude.
Totally. To be able to build something though and look at it, it gives you so much. When we came from Africa, my dad was a builder. We'd move into these homes, and we'd just buy a block of land and build a home on it. It started out pretty small, and then the Gold Coast, the homes were a lot bigger. So we'd move into these properties, no carpet, no tiles. So we tile, carpet, landscape, build a hebel wall, paint, granite. Got to do all that stuff as a kid growing up. And I think of jobs like that, or I did fruit picking, and I'm like, this is a honest day's work. And I remember just feeling so fulfilled. And then I think acting jobs, I don't feel that. I'm there and I'm like, I'm just waiting to be called. And even when you do it, they're like, no, talk faster. No, get rid of that line, don't do this. Yeah, see that thing you're doing? Yeah, don't do that. You just get told what not to do. A little bit, and it's so fast. You do 2 takes. Cool, let's set up over here now. Yep, got that take. Okay, moving on. And he's like, wow, that's my job? Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, I guess, but it doesn't feel like I'm really doing anything that's worthwhile.
How many other media personalities, like say in your field, man, in Australia, would share your opinion on this? As in, maybe not publicly, but privately, they would have this candid conversation with you. Okay, if I ran into them at Temperance and you were there that night as well, they would say the same shit. How many of your colleagues, peers, or do you think there's really that big bubble of, especially because we're so isolated from the rest of the world, and the pool is so small, you become, you get those idiots from, maths or some shit turning up at the Logies like they're the kings. I think the Logies is a farce. But to be not actively,
is so bad.
to not even be actively invited to the Logies, but still turn up, what does that say about your ego?
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you, how many of your peers and colleagues do you reckon share your opinion, if not publicly, at least privately?
I think that it would be a massive percentage.
Really?
Well, I think that more than anything, this concept of the grass is greener on the other side. When you start as an actor, your vision is, if this goes well, I'm beautiful. I'm well dressed. I am in a beautiful relationship. I'm happy. I get paid so much money. I have homes. I've had 2 people in the last month ask me for a loan of money. And I'm like, I have lots of people that I write to on Facebook. People are like, why are you writing to them? I'm like, well, because they're like a fan, right? You write, and I just do a thumbs up or something. It's been going on for years, some of these guys. But yeah, they, it's that sort of stuff. But I think the issue is that in your mind you think, oh, it's going to be lovely and nice. Yeah. And then when you're doing it, you're suddenly like the first time I went on Home and Away, they didn't even have a green room on location. I'm seeing Kate Ritchie and these actors, and I'm like, oh my God, like they're sitting in their cars with the aircon on and the engine running.
How can they not have a green room? A big production like that?
100%, right? And I'm just like, what?
Even I have a couch.
and so, of course, I go in there doing my comedy stuff, and I just start commenting on everything.
Yeah.
Afternoon tea was $55 for all the crew and the actors.
What?
That's right. And the green room that we actually had at studio was one room shared by all these people. There were couches that had no couch cushions on the back of them. People are sleeping on the floor. I used to sleep on a desk.
This is Home and Away.
This is Home and Away. They made $12 million profit one year, and I'm sitting there and I'm just heckling it going, and all that money profit, that's a profit. And the crew and the actors are getting $55 afternoon tea, which is basically, ham, chicken, and bread rolls.
Yeah.
And then lollies. And it's just like,
I have a photo too.
You know what? It just feels a bit rude.
I have a photo of you from in IT at morning tea, and you were staring at one of the grips, or it was a runner or something, eating a drumstick, and you're standing next to him.
Yeah, really?
We put on a spread, dude. I made sure to put on a spread.
Well, that is a big one in the industry. To make it good, is that you look after the crew with food.
100%.
Man, the crew on Home and Away worked so hard. Those guys did the longest hours and the longest days.
Yeah.
The truth is, so did the producers. So I can't really beat on anyone. All I know though is, if in your mind you think, oh, it's going to be all like, I'm going to have my own room with a bed in it and all this nice stuff. Star on the door and a chair with my name on it and all this. And then when you're doing the job, you're like, oh man, I've got to learn these lines. Wow, I'm so tired of being at work. I've got to drive 5 hours in one day because I go to studio, and then I've got 2 scenes in Palm Beach, so I've got to drive through traffic, and then I've got to come back to studio because I've got this other stuff. And then tonight I've got a function, so I've got to go pick up a suit, and then I'm going to go there, and you borrow the clothes, no one ever gives you shit. And then you've got to go get it dry cleaned, and you're like, yeah, it's only at this particular place. $90, sir. Like, $90 to dry clean? I could have bought a suit where I come from. So, yeah, I just felt like such a wank, and I was fake tanning.
Yeah.
So my life was just all around looking good and lying to people about how great everything was.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of celebrities, deep down, they're going, it's not as great as I thought.
Does anyone ever, you're being pretty candid, and from what I know, anytime I've had an interaction, you are candid.
Yeah, I think that's what gets me in trouble.
Have you come out on many more platforms and been this candid?
Look, anytime anyone asks me a question, I tend to just go, blah. I mean, I don't know how to do anything else.
Has anyone else actually patted you on the back and said, yeah, you're right, I'm there, even in spirit, I'm behind you?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I have people say quite often, they go, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
Which I guess means I'm sort of somewhere in the right ballpark. But, a lot of times it's just my opinion, and just observations. But it's back to that thing, I think this childlike paradigm of mine was always, don't pick on people.
Yeah.
Win-win outcome. And when I see it in big organisations, I can't. Unfortunately, I'm not the best person to employ.
Like you need like a hemp cloak. Just hemp. Everything hemp, man.
Look, I've come a long way. The last time I did a film, I just had crew and even the producer going, they're going, you're a very good actor and you're actually nice. Usually you only get one or the other. So, I finally worked this out, and that's why I'm sharing it with actors going, hey, don't do that. See that thing that you're doing? Don't do that.
Yeah.
And they're like, why is he so? And I'm like, I could tell you a story that really happened to me, where I just go, I couldn't sleep because of the embarrassment when I thought back on what my actions were or how I behaved.
How do you reckon, what do you reckon the biggest reprimand ever was that you ever caught on set, where you actually went into your shell and sort of mulled over it for way too long?
Oh, dude, I had too many.
Really?
Too many times, too many things. You got to understand, I was a trained actor. I trained everywhere. I read all the acting books. I went next level.
Yeah.
And what it made me was, I'm an actor. I teach something now, and I call it flow principles, essentially. How do you flow?
Is that your
Well, flow.
Trait, like patent pending.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. But mind you, where it started was this guy. He's a Russian scientist named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and what he did was he studied sports people. And when you're doing a sport, you think of ice skaters and they're doing all the flips, and you would have noticed in your life, it just happens automatically.
Yeah, muscle memory and
Yeah, but when you increase the challenge and the skill level so much, the brain steps into this flow state.
Yeah.
Flow state is when the brain is functioning at its optimal speed, if you will.
Because actually, you know what? You're right. Because when I've pushed myself, either when I was playing guitar and doing all that shit, you sort of hit that echelon, like that next level, and then it just starts streaming.
Michael Jordan called it being in the zone.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
literally.
A jazz musician would say I was in the pocket.
Yeah.
And so, that is really, to me, very, very important stuff to know. So that's where flow came from. But then, for me, I have so many actors, and they're just in their heads. And I'm like, you're stiff, and you have opinions. And so I'm walking on set on Home and Away. And I'm like, Paul, can we just get you this? And I'm like, yes, but, not that I said this, but it's along the lines of my character wouldn't say that. Or, don't you think that having an opinion, here's the trick to being an actor. You walk on the set and you don't have an opinion. You stand on your mark and you look at the camera. And then you just do a take and you don't say anything. And they say, oh, can you go again this time? Can you do this? And you go, sure.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you just shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Whereas actors walk on, they go, hi guys, hi, yes, oh, it's my show, I'm here. Meanwhile, the crew have been working with all these big ass actors, and they've done all these different shows, and they just see these actors and go, this guy thinks that this is their show. And I want to finish that, an earlier question that you had about what makes a production good. Yeah. I had the director of Message Man actually tell me this, and he goes, you can have three things, fast, cheap, or good.
We used to preach that, man, all the time.
And pick two.
100%.
Pick two.
100%.
So I think in Australia what they do is, I did Underbelly. I did
Which one?
Tell Them Lucifer was here, which is based. I played Rod Miller. So Rod Miller and Gary Silks were two cops that were gunned down in Moorabbin.
Yeah,
and that's where Blue Ribbon Day came from.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm talking to the producer, and he's like, we like to film it really fast because that makes it better pace and it does it better. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, I totally disagree. It's all about money. It's all producers. I think they start out for the love of it. And even, directors and writers, and then they start going. Then when they get closer to actually having that film come out, they just start going, okay, come on, I got to pay for the last 10 years of working for free. And so we get compromised in the storytelling.
But see, I do that, man. When I first started, I basically kept building up the portfolio, getting the bigger sort of, opportunities and people to work with and subsidize my pay. It's like, don't worry about the money. Like, I just want to get this on my portfolio and shake hands with the next dickhead that's going to get me to the next level. And then, to the end of it, when I finally got burnt at that next level, when I nearly had the big payoff where it's like, all the eggs are in the basket, I'm willing to compromise just to get this off the ground, this can be the big thing, and then that got shit down, I just went, fuck this. And then I overinvested in artists that I was doing music for and all that sort of shit. And now when people say to me, you should work with such and such, I'm like, I haven't got time. I've got bills to pay, man. It doesn't mean that much to me anymore. Like, What are you gonna pay me to do it, dude? Like, I could do it.
Well, that's the thing. Even big productions, they go, look, we're just going to tell you, the budget isn't there, and if you don't do it, we'll just give it to someone else. Like, it's ridiculous, man. I mean,
so do you want me, or do you just want someone in my spot? Like,
and here's the thing. And then when it tips the other way, then suddenly, why do actors become such toss bags? Because they've been treated like a toss bag, treated like shit. Extras are treated like shit. Then you get to actors, and you're still treated like a number. You are a number, or as John Holmes said, I'd never say his name, treat actors like mushrooms.
Yeah.
Keep them in the dark and feed them shit. So I think then when actors do start to get their kudos and everything, they go, no, I'm going to tell you how this show's going, because this is shit for this and this and reason, and I've been doing so many crappy productions for the last 10, 20 years.
Look what Charlie Sheen
I now know what is good.
When Charlie Sheen came out and he had enough of 2.5 Men and just all the crap that he'd been put through, first thing he said was, I don't have to wear another one of those fucking shirts ever again. Stick it up your ass.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They lock you into a contract.
Yeah.
And you're there for potentially 5-6 years.
Yeah, he did 8 seasons, I think?
Okay,
something like that?
You'd start to go... I don't think you should do any show for more than a year, to be honest.
Well, that's why a lot of actors that do movies don't go for the TVs, because they don't want to be stuck in that role, playing that character.
Look, I always wanted to do movies.
Yeah.
When I started out, and because of that variety.
Yeah.
They're so spread out, but like my mission statement is 1 to 2 films a year. Like, that's my goals. And I teach my students how to go and chase stuff and do it. I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
I don't chase it. I'm like, guys, look, I used to.
Yeah, you did.
But I'm like, now I'm in orbit. I'm in space.
Yeah, you're in a different place.
I just need those little just a little bit now and then to...
Changing what you want. Like, as you either get older or more mature or whatever, that's not a bad thing. It's just where you are. Let's just see if people are allowed to be at different places, dude.
Yeah. And here's the problem, though. People give up.
100%.
And so these principles that I've been bringing in, and I'm like, well, look at sports people. So I teach acting as a sport.
Yeah.
And so the big one, I'm saying, how can you have longevity? And so I've got these exercises that actually change your chemistry, change your adrenaline, change change the chemicals in your brain. And those are the things that are going to reset you. So you can dust yourself off and get up again. And as you know, being in this industry, it's like going to war.
Oh, every day, man.
It's like going to war without bullets.
Yeah, you're just going to get shot down.
You do. And then, and that is the business side of stuff where I'm like, it's not taught. And that is what everyone needs to know in this industry.
Are you into chakras and stuff?
Look, I haven't given them too much attention.
What about gemstones?
Well, I've got some people that are into that. I'm a bit more of a realist, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't do gemstones. I can't take any of that shit seriously, dude.
Yeah, look, you got to understand, all that stuff is it's by. I was telling you about neural-linguistic programming, NLP.
Yeah.
They're anchors. When you look at something, if you talk about it enough and give it energy, it holds it. And then if enough people do that, it has a mass collective. It becomes so. Just like Jesus. It becomes so. And
you start turning water into wine, man. I'm out of here.
Yeah. But I mean, if you actually look at a lot of the origins of all that stuff, it's actually, it's something completely different.
Oh, we can get into that on another day, dude.
Yeah.
It's very late. That's a long story. No, how long have you been studying it? Like, as into what intensity? Did you do the whole shave the head, go to a temple and sit there and breathe, or a lot of reading online, or like how did you sort of come away with it?
That's interesting. I was in a pretty low place, and I so want to share with you guys why and what I was doing. But basically, I was interrupting an old habit pattern that I had.
Okay.
And I was like, cool, if you want to interrupt it, this is how you're going to do it. And it was really painful. I destroyed my ego. I had ego death. And, from being famous and living in this thing and then to lose it and then have to reinvent yourself as not being someone who even wants to chase fame was a really tough transition.
Would be.
And so I was really...
Especially without the coaching, like without that hand on the shoulder just to say, hey, mate, like, this is what's going to happen. This is where you.
Oh, totally.
I'm pretty sure they've got that now, like, as in.
Okay.
Yeah, like, even.
I should probably offer my services, to be honest.
You should.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I'm being 100%. Like I said, this is life coaching. It's not just.
Let me write that down. But yeah, no, seriously, it's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
And it is. But here's the thing: acting problem is a life problem, is a saying that they say. And so, yeah, to be a life coach and an acting coach and a professional working actor, they complement each other so well. And a lot of things for actors is their thinking goes future or past. And so that's where, if you think about the future, it creates anxiety. If you think about the past, it creates depression. Acting, you're always living in the future. Oh, okay, I've got this audition. Oh my God, what if I get it? But then you're on set, and then you do the scene, and you think, oh, if only I did this and this, and then it comes out, and they use a completely different take.
You know, it's really interesting that you just said that about thinking if living in the past, it creates depression. If you're living in the future, it creates anxiety. Because I was telling, as we're driving over here, man, I said to you that I've stopped using the past to, what was the word I said? Define, where I am and where I'm going. I've dealt with depression my entire life. And because of, it makes sense now that you're saying it, that a lot of it has been because of my, reliance on nostalgia and clinging to the past.
Yes, nostalgia was a word that you used.
Yeah, now I'm getting my anxiety's elevated, mostly because I've got anxiety going forward.
Okay.
Because of the instability of my life.
I could solve that in under an hour. Or your money back. Swear on my life. Because I had to do it for myself, not once, but like many times
that
over many years.
There you go. You're diagnosing, man, without even doing it.
Yeah. And so initially, all the stuff was for me to go, like, I'm not thinking right.
Yeah,
I'm not thinking the right thoughts. I mean, I was at a point, where I was like, I'm just gonna walk. I'm going to walk away from this office and stuff that I'm renting and just vanish. Like, that's how low I was.
I've been there, yeah.
And I found this meditation, it's Wayne Dyer. And it had this symbol, and I suddenly was like, that's what God is. And I believed in God for the first time. Because I was never raised, went to Catholic school and everything. But I talked to the teachers, and I was like, I'd ask them a question, they'd dodge around it. And I was like, don't believe you.
You're full of shit.
You're full of shit. And it was coming from Africa. I just started saying everyone's full of shit. Mainly because I think I was learning phonetics, sounds. Came to Australia. No, it's A, B, C. And I was like, so I've been taught this by teachers here. I've been getting taught by this by teachers here. And I sort of gave both of them a burden. I go, you know what? I'm just going to make up my own, my own theory on life and everything. And I don't want to read books until I have an opinion.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I only started reading books a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you reckon is the biggest misconception people have, say, about you specifically? Meeting you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll go further back, but a lot of people in jobs, I'd work there, and they'd go, out of the blue one, they go, can I just say something? I go, what? And they go, you are just the loveliest, nicest guy, and you're so funny and everything. But when you first started, I just thought you were the biggest arrogant prick. So people think that I'm arrogant. I always thought it was a little bit of a South African thing as well. It's just the survival instinct where, but yeah, mainly that I've, just trying to make people laugh or testing the waters. And the truth is, I just can't help it. Something happens and I go, blah, and I just spit it out, and then I'm like, what? And I never think anything of it. But yeah, I've offended people along the way. But to me, that's a part of being a comedian.
Yeah, if you honestly offended someone, like say if you offended me, legitimately offended me, and I said it to you, you'd hear me out.
Yeah.
And if you got where I was coming from, you'd probably apologise.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that I'm a pretty solid human who's here to help humans. That's really, at the end of the day, that's all I really care about.
You said that you wanted to be a director, you looked at stand-up comedy. If you hadn't done, say, the whole thing into acting, where do you think you would have ended up? Honestly. Because, this life coach thing, a lot of it has been triggered because of your experience in acting. Obviously, your own experience.
Yeah.
But all the shit that you've seen, you've sort of fused it into the acting and then one-on-one, and I'm the one that's saying, dude, that's actually life coaching. Like, go above.
Yeah.
Does it make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
So what do you reckon you would have been doing?
It scares me. Potentially real estate. Or being a salesman of some sort. Because I've had people go, man, you'd be such a great salesman.
You would, because you're confident and you can charm people.
If I believe in something, I'm just like, no, man, you've got to... so probably a salesman, but you know what scares me about it? I'd be earning a shitload of money. I'd be driving a Beamer. I'd be wearing a suit. I'd be very shiny. And I just think I'm too cool for school. I meet guys like that sometimes, and they're womanizers and they're all that kind of stuff. They're pieces of shit, basically. What we're hinting at. They're smashing a bag of Coke, for brunch. Whereas, for me, like I said, I'm more of, it's like I'm a young, old, retired person. Because, my days are very... Like I said, I try and work 25 hours a week. But because of that, I'm like, oh man, geez, how am I going to pay rent this month? But I've just always let people like, you need to... And I'm like, no, this time is for me to think. Something's going to work out. I just need time. Because, and a lot of people that are suffering from anything, stress, anxiety, depression, the best way to cure it is to sit and be still. That's it.
You think?
Go to the ocean, sit in nature, no phone, nothing. Just sit there.
No phone?
No phone.
Who do you know that goes without a phone?
Sit and wait. Sit and wait. And your brain is just the super unconscious, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. When the mind becomes still, the pebble of an idea is able to ripple. But our minds are too turbulent, especially, we're constantly checking and comparing and measuring.
Yeah.
The TV tells us, the news tells us fear. Ads say if you don't buy this, you're this. Then you got, I call it, fake book and Insta-lie. Because even my Instagram is so shiny. It looks like I live in this beautiful place and I'm ripped and I go to these exotic places and but at the end of the day, we're all the same. We feel alone and we're going, where am I going? I used to always laugh at that, career counsellor. I remember being at school and the career counsellor, and I'm like, the career counsellor, what do you want to do? And I thought, she doesn't even know. And she's going, oh, this sounds like a good one for you. And in her head, I'm like, you're not qualified for this. Every adult that I spoke to as a kid, I'd watch them and be like, wait a minute.
Dude, I did the same. I used to get in trouble for it all the time.
Okay.
I get sent out.
Yeah.
I get sent out.
Which has got to change, and it will. Because a smart teacher or someone who actually is doing... Teachers need to be paid more than any other job, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because, the better the teacher, the better the child,
I agree, 100%.
The better the society.
And they're whittling away funding to schools every day, man.
Well, they're paying teachers so little that the teachers that are teaching, the school where I went to, I'm pretty sure one of them was, he was smoking bongs. They would get ripped every afternoon or multiple times. I learnt when I left the school.
Yeah.
Getting blind, drunk, not in love with their jobs. And that's why the student goes, excuse me, Miss Nan. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Miss Nan. Year 9 science class. But how do germs work? We're not covering that, okay? That's another day. We never covered it. If she was actually genuinely in love with those topics and got employed because of her skill set and got paid great money to teach what she loves and she has researched, and she would sit there and answer it. She could answer it in one sentence.
Yeah.
Or she'd go, that's a really good question. Hey, and that's... these things are so simple, but it's back to this. We still live in this old world of commercial, building stuff, and they need workarounds. And so I see a lot of people that have been told things, and this is what you need to do. You just need to get a job. And I think that it's all wrong. I've stepped away from society.
You hit the nail on the head before when you said with fake book and Insta-lie and everything's sort of built around, on people's insecurities and all that sort of shit. Look at TV commercials, yeah? Look at TV, right? If it's a show about, 30 losers trying to land one bird that they've all propped up with, producers, as you would know, you look at the commercials, and I can tell you right now what these commercials are going to be. One would be a skin cream for women to appeal to keeping their youthful fucking radiant looks, blah, 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 blah. And all these creams from L'Oreal and blah, blah, blah will charge $1 million. We could just go run to the ocean and do your plan at a nice cheap group rate. Yeah? 100 remedies that they could do it any other way, right? Forget that. Next will be an ad for an Audi or a Beamer or some imported car at an inflated price of $60K. Dude, $60K, drive away. Who's got $60,000 to buy a fucking car off the bat?
Right,
that's a lot of money, man.
Well, it's very, very ego-based, isn't it?
But that's what I'm saying. Next will be eHarmony. Because people are lonely, like you just said. Hey, you're a loser sitting at home right now. Here's a cream to make you younger. Here's a car to make you more appealing. And here's where you're going to find these fucking individuals.
True that.
That's legit, dude.
Yeah.
And then here's a holiday destination to treat yourself, you know, where you might be able to take this person or find other people out of your, you know, pathetic life because all you're doing is 9 to 5, whatever the fuck it is. You nailed it, dude. 100%. And this is just off the top of my head. While you're waiting for The Bachelor to start up again. This is what they're feeding you.
Like, you see, I don't, as I said, I don't watch any of that stuff, but like I pop down to my mum's place and, you know, she's watching The Bachelor and I can see how it's so entertaining.
Yeah.
And then I watch a bit of it, but I'm just like, I know how fake the show is because I've done reality shows.
Yeah.
I know how set up they are. They already know who's going to win. They edit it and they destroy girls. Oh, she was such a bitch. No, she was lovely. She was a bitch 3 times.
Yeah, that took 10 seconds.
Yeah. She was a bitch 3 times for 5 minutes once, 2 minutes another time, 10 minutes another time. And they've got an entire, that's like 20 minutes worth of her being a cow.
Yeah. The episode's 30 minutes, less commercials.
And so those guys that leave reality shows, they don't deal with it well at all.
Yeah.
Especially because that's 15 seconds of fame. 15 minutes is a big deal. But even that, you know, I'd see guys on Home and Away and they'd finish their last day. And then they'd wake up the next day in their bed and go, I have no skills. I have no job.
Yeah, they do a 50-worder and all of a sudden...
Yeah, well, if you've been working on a show for 4 years and then it finishes the next day, you're no longer invited to the parties. There's nothing. You're just gone straight away. And so you'd see them suddenly go, oh, hey, man, what's going on? And you're so busy doing your thing, you're like, oh, I got to go. It's weird and sad. It's weird and sad. So yeah, I'm all about, you know, bring back this concept of sitting around the fire and talking.
Kumbaya, get the guitar out.
Yeah, man, I love that stuff. I love a good dinner party. I have people around, I cook food, I'm like, that is a good night out.
I'm there. Can you invite me to one of these things?
Absolutely.
I'll bring you like some dips. I'll make some wok dips or something and bring it down.
Nice. And the Greek soldier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to tell the story of that one. That's insane. You know what's funny is when you leave here, close the door, fuck that shit, and put on your tux and just go out, fucking line yourself up with some real corporate gigs for the rest of the week. Now, I was absolutely bamboozled this dude for like 2 hours. You know what I mean? I'm an actor. That's what I do.
That's what I do.